As shown in this graph about wealth gaps by educational attainment, postgraduates have the highest amount of household wealth over a 25-year span, earning between $300,000 to $550,000. This is followed by people with a bachelor's degree, then people with a certificate, after which comes people with just a high school degree, all the way down to high school dropouts, which is the orange line, earning just between $20,000 to $50,000 per year. Good afternoon, my name is Amir Hamza Haider, and today I'll be discussing the effect of education on the growing wealth gap in the United States. So for my research question, I discussed to what extent has the growing wealth gap between the elite class and middle class in the United States in the last century been driven by a lack of education provided for middle class citizens. My response to this is that the growing wealth gap between the elite class and the middle class in the United States over the last century has majorly been driven by a lack of education provided for middle class citizens due to familial, governmental, and economic reasons. As shown in this graph about wealth gaps by educational attainment, as seen on the left, there have been mass protests in favor of increasing taxes on the elite class of the United States in order to generate more funds for public services and to decrease wealth inequality. The image on the right shows a shocking statistic which states that the United States ranks 93rd in income equality. This just goes to show how far behind we are in closing the pay gap and how the rich only get richer while the lower class continues to decline. As stated in the inaugural address by Franklin D. Roosevelt, taxes have risen. Our ability to pay has fallen. Government of all kinds is faced by serious curtailment of income. The means of exchange are frozen in the currents of trade. The withered leaves of industrial enterprise lie on every side. This goes to show how the United States government has struggled to sufficiently fund its citizens throughout the past century. Along with that, urban areas receive higher funding for education, with policies preventing more education investment in rural areas, setting them further behind because there's no good education systems available in their area. As well as that, less than 60% of all federal financial aid goes to students who actually need it, going to students who don't need it as much, which is wasting more of that governmental money coming in. As shown in this graph, the federal public education budget in 2021 was $73.5 billion, while just 11 years prior to that, it was $192.3 billion in 2010, which shows the drastic difference in just the 11-year time span. According to the Education of Elites in the United States by Shams Rahman Khan, half the families who send their children to Ivy Leagues have income above $200,000, which is in the top 5% of American families. This in turn creates a divided society based heavily on class. As shown in this graph about average GPA by family structure, intact married families have the highest GPA with a GPA of 2.9, followed by varying family structures with married step families, intact cohabiting families, cohabiting step families, single divorced parent families, and always single parent families, with single parent families averaging the lowest GPA with a GPA of 2.5, which is fairly significantly lower than 2.9 of intact married families. This goes to show the importance of the nuclear family structure on children, which is something that has been completely torn down in the United States, with skyrocketing divorce rates, with it rising every single year. Furthermore, just a single more year of schooling increases yearly earnings by a whole 10%. According to the effect of wealth inequality on higher education outcomes by Emily Rosher and William Elliott, only 36% of high school graduates without college education earn a living wage, while 46% of those with some college and 69% of those with a college degree earn above the living wage cutoff. This graph demonstrates the average median full-time wage, with the green line representing second-year graduates and the blue line representing fourth-year graduates. For people with certificates, they earn the least, earning only between $36,000 to $40,000, followed by people with associate degrees earning between $38,000 to $42,000, then bachelor's degrees earning between $41,000 to $48,000, and the highest earners is being above a bachelor's degree, earning between $69,000 to $76,000, which is far more, which is nearly double than the amount of people with certificates who earn the least. For my resolution, I said that the lack of education the middle class citizens receive in the United States is one of the leading causes of the growing wealth gap in the country in the last century. As for long-term impact, this will cause a lack of social mobility that will chain lower and middle class people to a hard to break cycle and cause further class division in the United States, dividing the nation more than it already has been. Thank you.
All right, 2 questions for you. First up, what information did you need before you began your whole process?
Before I began my whole process, the information I needed was specifically about how education levels were affecting the long-term future of people and how much education they attained impacted their wealth basically in the future, and those that didn't get that, how their income ended up being in the future.
Okay. And what additional questions popped up to you as you were working your way through the entire project?
Additional questions that popped up in my head were about how racial inequality and race affects the wealth gap, and more than that, it was also about how potentially not getting that education would also impact their future as well.